The Sahel is rising. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are rewriting the rules, leaving ECOWAS, rejecting Western dominance, and now creating an investment bank to control their financial future. But what does this mean for Africa and the world at large? Hello everyone, welcome to Her Voice. Back in September 2023, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger formed the Alliance of the Sahel states after military takeover and growing frustration because of Western influence. In January 2024, they withdrew from ECOWAS, criticizing sanctions, economic dependency, and colonial-era structures. ECOWAS, if you don't know, this is a colonial-era structure meant to mobilize the people in the western part of Africa. The Sahel states rejected that. We refuse to be dictated to by foreign investors who tell us where to invest and what to invest in. This is a statement made by a member of the Sahel states back in August 4th, 2025. They refuse to take instructions from the West. They want to be able to invest where they want to. Now, what is this new investment bank, you might ask? The Sahel states announced the creation of the Confederation Bank of Investment and Development. The initial funding is 500 billion CFA francs, which is approximately $833 million. Where is this money going to come from? About 5% of each country's tax revenue will feed to the bank annually. It means each year, 5% of their tax revenue is going to go into the funding of this bank. This money normally has to go to France because of the CFA, but now that they no longer pay that money to France, they can actually have that money to put into their investment bank. What is the purpose of this investment bank? It's going to be used for infrastructures, energy, transport, agriculture, without relying on Western loans and IMF restrictions. The projects under consideration for this investment banks are actually a Trans-Sahel railway network, so a railway that is going to take everybody around the Sahel states, linking all three countries, energy infrastructures boasting solar and power energy, even nuclear energy, a new regional airlines to strengthen economic integrity among those states, and food sovereignty programs, reducing dependence on importing food from other countries, especially the West. Now, you will want to ask, the Sahel states still use the CFA francs, and as we all know, the CFA francs is pegged to the euro because of France. First question, how do they have the autonomy to be able to take 5% of their revenue and feed it towards this investment bank? They can do that because they stopped paying the revenue to France. Yes, they still use the CFA francs. They are moving closer to creating their own currency, which takes time. But since they no longer pay that colonial tax to France, they are able to decide where to put that money. So the CFA francs has a fixed rate with the euro because of France. It means 1 euro is approximately 656 CFA francs. This peg is guaranteed by the French Treasury and is meant to provide currency stability for the CFA zone countries, including Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Now, because of this, do you think France can destabilize this country? Technically, France cannot block the investment of this 500 billion by the Sahel states because they stop contributing to France. However, indirectly, there are some risks to be expected. If the AES abandons the CFA francs or challenge the euro peg currency violation, the currency violations could increase. So what can France do? France, via the euro peg, still influence monetary policies indirectly. So, until the Sahel states create their own currency, which they are in a process of doing, France can still have some monetary policies over them. It really cannot do much, but it could still have some monetary policies over them. It's always good for every sovereign country to have their monetary policies. If you know why I'm always angry at China, it's because China might decide to devalue its currency to make its goods cheaper so that people can buy its goods. Normally, it doesn't affect the people of China that much because goods are still the same way, but it's going to attract more imports, like more people coming in buy goods from China because now the exchange rate is lower and they buy more. So France could apply external economic pressure, for example, lobbying ECOWAS and the EU institutions to impose financial sanctions that affect AES access to international markets. That doesn't work these days. It no longer works, like that no longer works. But they could do that, they could try. So 2023, the CFA France zones had to deposit 50% of their foreign reserves in the French treasury. In the late 2023, the AES stopped making that payment and began keeping 100% of their reserve locally. France is the most disgusting nation I have ever known. That colonial nation needs to end. It irritates me. So this free up domestic capital is used now to fund the CBID investment banks and other strategic projects. That's why you see the Sahel states can easily make investments on their own, while other CFR nations like Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Chad can't do anything because they still have to go to their masters to ask for help. Now, the money that these states have been paying for long to France, is France ever going to give back? If they have been paying 50% annually, it means every year that 50% is given to France. Is France ever going to give back that money? Yes, France should give back that money, but from the looks of it, it doesn't seem that way. Those reverses are used to back the convertibility guarantee. Since the CFA France is pegged to the euro, they use that for that guarantee, which to me doesn't make sense. I don't know who accepted this stupid deal, but see, there's something wrong about French colonies. If you ever lived in a French colony, you understand that the French system has a lot of problems. If you look at it, they haven't progressed one bit. If the AES fully abandons the CFA France, they will likely lose access to the historical deposits. Renegotiations can be made to get that money, but however, AES leaders are considering creating a new currency. Like they just want to give up everything. They don't want anything to do with France at this point. France can keep that money and still go down the drain. But if they can negotiate and get back that money, I will vote for that because they shouldn't be losing their money for riffraffs in France. As of right now, they still use the CFA France and they are trying to create the investment bank. Abandoning France, not paying the reserve currency to France, France might want to retaliate. So what are the measures that they have taken to be able to fight all the risks? The first thing is the AES they're planning on joining the BRICS nation, which is a great thing. I feel like all African countries should join the BRICS nation, but we still know some have colonial masters that they have to bow to. So they are thinking of joining BRICS, and we know BRICS provides a certain kind of guarantee when it comes to trade. If you're in BRICS and the West sanction you, if the West sanction you from now to tomorrow, it's never going to work. You can look at Russia. Russia has been doing good, even with sanctions given to them by the West. Their partnership could provide non-euro dominance funding, facilitate infrastructure projects without IMF and EU restrictions, supporting AES long-term goals of monetary independence. So just pivoting towards BRICS is going to provide them a whole lot of security. Also, it is said that AES are planning to include the diaspora community in financing this bank. This is where I'm more excited. If you look at one of my videos, you'll see that Ethiopia actually created a great dam, one of the biggest dams in Africa. They built that dam with funding from the diaspora. So there are talks that they're planning on looking at the diaspora. It is not yet certain. There's just people just whispering. But this, for me, it's one of the greatest things that I want them to do, because I know many people in the diaspora are going to get into this. So potential mechanisms that they could do is diaspora bonds, allowing expatriates to invest directly into the bank, equity partnership, enabling the diaspora to hold stakes in projects, digital investment platforms, connecting global Africa to regional opportunities. So those are the things that they can do to get the diaspora to come in. This could become a critical alternative funding source if the Western institutions reduce support for these nations through sanctions. So can you look at the diaspora? They are there to help. Do not minimize the diaspora. Do not minimize your diaspora, each African country. Do not minimize them. So, what is now the impact of this investment bank to Africa and the West? If this is successful, the CBID could inspire other African countries to create independent development banks. They can challenge French historical financial dominance in West Africa. Countries like Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Chad can try to get their own independence if this works. Strengthening the Sahel integrity and bargaining power in global trade. The risk remains because it's a new currency that they're creating, and each currency has some risks, but nevertheless, if this currency is being backed by gold, by critical minerals in the country, then devaluing it is going to be very difficult to do. The retaliation from France and ECOWAS could still remain. Heavy reliance on diaspora and BRICS for initial funding can be used to counter that retaliation from the West and ECOWAS. The Sahel states are betting on themselves and their people. The investment bank is more than just an institution. It's a declaration of independence. But will France fight back? And can the AES build financial freedom without destabilizing their economy? That is a food for thought for them. But I know they are up to the task and they'll be able to do this. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe for more news about African development. Thank you for listening to her voice.